I'm delighted to be up here. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. This is kind of new to me, this speaking in front of so many people. I think Joe told me that it was about 400, and I hear today that it's 700, so if I'm a bit nervous, just bear with me. Anyway, looking back here, it's been a bit of a journey, and I'm looking around to see all of the entrepreneurs in the HPSU. It's absolutely fantastic. When I started in 1997, you had Chorus Troctala, which helped export companies, and they had this massive grant of about 500 grand. But it took you nearly a year or 2 years to actually get the whole process together and apply for it and whatever else. I mean, Enterprise Ireland has come a long, long way since 1997. And you'll see from what I show you here, what Enterprise Ireland has done for companies like ours has been just unbelievable. I take my hat off to them. And as I said to Joe earlier on there, I don't know when the payback time ends, but I'm sure it'll end some stage. But I prefer to try and give you back as much as I can. So, looking up here, what did we start off? We started off as a distribution company, and our philosophy was to try and bring in health and beauty products that really improve people's lives. So when I was looking at this here, rather than just go through the most important part of our journey, which was taking a brand called Viviscal, a hair growth product, and turning it from 700,000 into 50 million and selling it, I decided to go back and try and bring through the areas that made such a difference so that you can understand. So if you look here, there are 3 phases in the development of our business. The first phase was when we took the business from 500,000 up to 3.5 million. That was in the period from 1997 to 2002. That was just in Ireland. I had finished up and sold out my business, or sold out my shares in BMR Slendertone, having taken Slendertone as a brand that was in liquidation and putting it back on the international stage, mostly through going out, traveling over South America, North America, Asia, learning the trade, meeting people, getting to understand the difference in cultures. And so when I came back and set up in 1997, I put in about £140,000 out of what I had sold into this business to try and capitalize the business and make sure that at least there was enough equity in the business. I never had to put in another penny from there on in. So the first business I started was when I set up what was called Irish Response at the time. I took over the distribution of Slendertone in Ireland, and that was a business that had a turnover of about 500,000. And with that, I had 2 other individuals, and I started in Galway. I also used some of the network inside in BMR to help me out. But we grew that business, and we became a distributor. And my whole idea at that stage, and you can see how things change, and it will change for all of you over the course of your business, career, and success. And that is, you start off, as I did, I wanted to be an Irish distribution company, using all the contacts that I had across the world, bringing in all these great products that had been proven in other markets, that had TV campaigns, and bring them into Ireland and make them a success. Because I had built up the whole retail network, pharmacies, health stores, online business. We were also selling directly to consumer. So we built that business up to 3.5 million. And then I realized every time I was looking to try and get another really good product, it usually was a situation where the distribution for the UK and Ireland was given to some guy in the UK, and he just considered Ireland as sort of an extended province of the UK. So the margins were all different, didn't understand that we had a different culture, different VAT rates, importing, etc., etc. So an opportunity came up for me to buy a distribution business from a Danish guy in the UK. And what we did was that had a turnover of 300,000 direct into consumer and 300,000 into retail, which automatically, even though it was only 600,000, it gave me access to the UK and to Ireland. Interesting enough, the guy sold me the business for £150,000. I didn't have that at the time. AIB gave me 75 grand, and I had an employee who kept raving on about all the money he had made and whatever else. So I borrowed 75 grand from my employee. Put that with the 75 grand that I got from AIB and bought the company. In fact, the guys wanted to go out and celebrate the sale of the company, and I went off to QVC to do a show to try and sell the products. So that brought me up to 4.2 million. Then we grew that business we got into the second phase. We grew that business in Ireland mostly, and in the UK up to about 9.5 million. But then the most important thing happened. When I bought that UK business, I realized that they had an incredible product. It was a food supplement for hair growth. And I just didn't believe, because it was targeted at men. And I thought to myself, there's no way something like this is going to work. So I started to look at the database. And in the database, I found that out of the 5,000 customers on the direct database, half of them were female. So I thought, are they buying it for their partners, their husbands, or whatever else? In fact, they weren't. They were buying it for themselves. So I quickly realized that, and made the discovery that hair loss, that women had hair loss as well. Only their hair loss was temporary hair loss, whereas on the male side, it was permanent hair loss. So I knew that as long as it was temporary, it probably could work. So we started doing a lot of research with women and understood, in fact, that it was a taboo subject. No woman ever wanted to talk about this. So we went off, changed all the packaging, took all the marketing and directed it towards women. And everything we did, we also got Cheryl Baker, you remember her from Bucks Fizz. She became our celebrity endorsee. And on top of that, we went to the Daily Mail, and eventually we got a page in November 2004, which was Shark Pill that reverses hair loss. We had a small call centre in Galway, and we took in 2,000 calls that first day from the Daily Mail paper. In addition to that, we did £250,000 over the following 6 months just from that page alone. So I knew there and then I was onto something really good, something that was different. There was no other product out there catering for women's hair loss, So with that, we jumped on that and we grew the business. We got it into retail. Boots took the product, and very quickly we grew the business to 20 million in 2000. In 2006, we got it up to 20 million. You can see the number of employees we had. We went from 11 in Ireland up to 15. So we didn't have to make major changes to get that. I also had a very interesting company. It was a subsidiary of UDG here in Ireland at the time, or United Drug. And they did all the logistics. They took the orders, they held the stock, they picked, packed, they invoiced for me, and then they just charged me a commission. So we were very clever about how we set it up. Everything was done from Ireland. We only had a small sales and marketing office in London. And so in Ireland we had the call centre, we had the picking, packing for the direct response. We shipped everything out from Ireland into the UK. So the only thing we did in the UK in situ was use UDG to do the distribution of the goods. Sales and marketing was very small. You can see there we only had 5 people. And there were 5 people that worked with all the agencies, TV, marketing, direct response, etc., etc. So that brought us on to 20 million, and then disaster struck. The same Danish guy, beware the Danes. This same Danish guy, he basically, what he did is he went away and copied the product, saw the success that we were having. We were about to launch the product into the US in the end of 2006. He copied the product because he couldn't get the manufacturer to give him an exclusive license for that product globally. So he goes away, copies the product, gets it made in China, and then puts on the box, made in Denmark. We never knew anything about this. In 2007, the manufacturer in Denmark called me in Chicago to tell me. Now, one part of me froze and said, oh my God, this is a serious problem because so much of my business depends on this. But the other side turned around and said, this is the opportunity that I was waiting for. An opportunity to instead of being a distributor, instead of always relying on somebody else's brand, instead of investing in somebody else's brand, which when you're in distribution, it's always the problem because the brand belongs to somebody else. So in 3 months, at the end of 2007, we lost 78, nearly 80% of our UK turnover because number of retailers, because we'd done such a good job to build that brand in the UK, they wouldn't move from it. So we were stuck. We lost the turnover. So in December 2007, I went up to Finland, and Christmas week, I bought the brand Viviscal. I was delighted to see that it wasn't that big. We did a deal, and in fact, I used the money that I owed the Danish fella for stock to buy the business, to buy the Finnish business. So there are always ways to turn things into your advantage. So we had to kind of come back and start, and over the course of the next few years, which brought us to 2008. The turnover fell back to 9 million. We lost a lot of credibility. Not only that, but the Danish guy won one particular round in a small court in the west of Denmark, and he tried to bury us. He told Enterprise Ireland, the banks, AIB, everybody, all of our stakeholders, told them all that we had lost this case and that I had an injunction and a judgment against me for 13 million euros at the time. So I never panicked. I told all of the office and everybody else, people in other countries, just focus on growing the business. I will handle the case. And so I took that myself and kept them, I camouflaged them away from all of that. And then it kept them focused. So you can see then the last phase, which was the big phase, between 2008 and 2016, we grew the business from 9 million to 60 million. And you can see this is where all the funding started. So back here in the early days, the funding that I needed, the loan that's in there, that's the 75 grand I got from the former employee. I put in the money earlier on. But you could see, because in the middle phase you're saying, well, how did you grow that? Where did you get the money from? The fact of the matter was that we had massive margins. In any business, in golf, drive for show, putt for dough. Margins is the putting. You have to get really good margins, because if anything goes wrong, or you have to pay up front, or you got to bring in product, that's when the problems start. So the BES and all of that, see there, we used 3 rounds of BES, one in 2008, one in 2012, and one in 2014. We also took an extra investment, which is in this stabilization plan. At one stage in the US, we had an opportunity to go into Walgreens, but we had $500,000 held back. And it was held back because Walgreens, when they put your product on the shelf, that's a pharmacy show for those of you, a pharmacy chain. For those of you who don't know that, if the product doesn't sell in 6 months, they send the whole lot back. So you could end up having a situation where you sell in between $600,000 and $900,000 worth of stock, and then if it doesn't sell, the balance comes back, so it can put companies out of business. So Enterprise Ireland provided this stabilisation fund, which is 350,000, which was excellent because that took the risk out of it. So in terms of the phase one, just for you guys, so you can see how we can compare. So the period going from 500 to 3.5, we were only a distributor. We purchased that company in the UK. The point there was that it was only 150 grand. Sometimes when you think you're buying into another country or trying to expand, it mightn't be that expensive. 100 grand is a hell of a lot of money. And you could buy a business that could set you up. The second thing, life's too good. We moved into hair. We found a real opportunity in women's healthcare. However, the challenges, we had bad accounting package. We had inexperienced accounting personnel. I'm a qualified accountant. How in God's name could I let that happen? My physio is unbelievable. She gives me all these incredible exercises. And then I say, but you seem to suffer from the same problems that I have. She said, as a physio, I'm the worst. I just don't do my own exercises. Accountants, if we're engineers, whatever we are, we seem to be the worst with our own stuff. Most important thing is accounting is really important. Accounts people, make sure you don't lose out on information or incorrect information. The last thing is, we did have poor margins at the start. We corrected that. The second phase, what did we learn? Well, in 2006, we launched into Portugal and the US. Portugal, you say, that's a pretty small market. The beauty about Portugal was that it was a small country, but it had exactly the same type of marketing as we had in Ireland. Pharmacy chains, direct response, easy distribution, low cost personnel, very simple market, completely different culture, different language, but a great market to test in. So we were able to go down there and get on quite well. What else? We developed the whole hair category. There was nobody else in the natural hair category. So we were going into a niche area. With new market entries, we had increased distribution. The direct response, we really pushed hard on that. Why? Because we always aimed to have at least 30 or 35% of our turnover in direct response, because the margins were 80% plus. We're going into retail at margins of down around 40%. The challenges in that time, managing the headcount. we tried to outsource as much as we could to agencies. So I didn't take in big overheads. There are loads of agencies, certainly in the fintech area. There's lots and lots of agencies that you can use. So you don't have to take that in. Okay, you'll pay a little bit more. But once you understand, like for example, we used to spend an awful lot of money on designing brochures, designing digital, TV, etc., etc. But then when I got later on, I took in 2 design people, and they paid for themselves literally in months. But you start off, outsource everything. The other thing is financing POs. When we grew from 9.5 to 20 million, we had to go back to our suppliers and get them to contribute. But what we did was we brought them in and showed them the success that we could create and made them part of the journey. And so they decided to contribute towards it. Then the biggest phase, the phase from 90 to 60 million, well, we decided to go into Australia. Why Australia? English speaking. The regulatory system was the same. Easy to find people. I found Irish people. I found a girl from Ballinasloe who worked for me in my Slendertone days. Excellent girl. And she helped set up the whole business down there. Same structure, same idea, the pharmacy chains and all that. Direct response, the Australians got all of that. So we also set up in Canada. We expanded the office, moved it from New York over to Chicago. And we started doing our international distribution. So I told you about the major legal dispute. However, the acquisition of Viviscal, that gave us for the first time, that was really the eureka moment. When I'm up there in Finland, and I was talking to Susan earlier on, Finland is just one of those countries. They're wonderful people, great to do business with. They're so honest, so decent. And I was able to do a deal, literally the deal I did to buy the business from him for 1.2 million. It took literally 2 hours. And then we went on the piss for the rest of the week, waiting for the lawyers to try and get the documents together. Lawyers, God almighty. Anyway, I love them and I hate them. The challenges, finding good people. Oh my God, you guys even are out there. But listen, I keep saying to people, start at the goal. Where do you want to be? And then work back. We have this thing in Ireland that we have no problem in investing in equipment. We have no problem in investing in campaigns, in marketing. The most important thing you can invest in a business anytime is people. Get the best people you can afford, because it's people that will make it happen for you. You can't do it all yourself. So the Enterprise, the Leadership for Growth program. Enterprise Ireland, I was so lucky to get on that program. 30 entrepreneurs from Ireland, and we went out to Stanford. It was a year course, and they sent us out there for 3 weeks, 3 separate weeks, and then we did the rest in Ireland. Now, as you can see, I had a bald patch before I started. Before the Leadership for Growth, growing without focus, we just wanted to grow. We were too thin at management level. It was me and an accountant. We just didn't have the depth of the team to try and take us on to the next level. We didn't have any training, even though I did some of the IMI courses. I would say to you, you have to train yourself. The day you stop learning, even if you think you know your business is really good, is the day you're going to lose out. Every day, you're learning from everybody around you. But the Management Institute have loads of courses. Enterprise Ireland have a ton of things which are fantastic, because you have to grow as a person with the business. Last thing, I was losing too much hair. I was losing sleep and all sorts of stuff. After the program, what did I do? Set a goal. Most of the guys, we had these what you call cohorts, so there was 6 of us together, and we were pushing each other to say, come on, what's the goal? What are we going to achieve? Enterprise Ireland are paying a fortune. The taxpayer in Ireland is paying a fortune. We were only paying about 20 or 25% for the course. So I wanted the guys to nail a number to the mast. Most of them didn't, but I said, okay, at that time I was doing 10 million. I said, I want to do 50 million in less than 5 years. So I knew that I set a goal. The second thing is I wanted to make Viviscal the #1 hair product in each country that we were in. The third thing was find other similar brands to fit into it, because we had the platform in place. But most importantly, create an environment where your people can deliver. If you find the best people, young people, it doesn't make any difference. I don't care how old or how much experience. They're human beings. Some of them have got experience, depth of experiences that they can get from their own experience throughout the years. Or young people just have this enthusiasm. It's about trying to get the culture in the company right. And so what we did was try to create an environment where everybody was part of that 50 million goal. Everybody in the whole organization, right from the top down to the bottom, the guys in the warehouse. And how did I do that? I said that if we get that goal and we sell that business, everybody's going to contribute. Everybody's going to participate in the rewards. The last thing which is really important is communication. Guys, in Ireland, I think we have a problem with communication. We tend to have everything in our own heads. You've got to communicate all the time. I know everybody in your organization knows that it's a tough journey. They all appreciate that you work so hard. But if you don't tell them what's going on, how do you expect them to help you out? So the most important thing on the Leadership for Growth was this thing called the 360 feedback. So what they do is they take about 10 or 12 people in your organization that you appoint, and then they take a consultant, and Rian, she's a Dutch girl living in Switzerland, she did that and asked them loads of questions. So my strengths from the people in my organization were driven, listens, provided it makes sense, thinks outside the box, confident of achieving the goals, empowers people. I love letting people off. I don't care if they make mistakes, as long as they don't lose a fortune. But honestly, it's great to see them. Look at the weaknesses. Do not recognize efforts. Travels too much. Susan, you were saying you're traveling a lot too. If you deliver, I lose interest. If you don't deliver, I lose interest. And then the last one is, we tend to focus on failures. At that, I would be very much a typical Irish entrepreneur. I think a lot of the faults that I see up there, you probably will recognize, even if you admit it to yourself. But it is a problem in Ireland. We don't recognize efforts. Most of us Irish entrepreneurs or business people think that if we give somebody praise, they're going to look for more money. They don't. 90% of them just want you to say, well done, thanks, you did a great job. Happy days. But we don't know how to do it. We're afraid. It's communication. Back to communication. The other thing is, you've got to empower people. Let them off. Who cares? Let them make the mistakes. It's not going to cost you a fortune, but they are going to learn so much from that. The important thing here is that I was prepared to take on the nose the feedback that I got from the staff. You might have a small staff of 1 or 2 or 3 people. Do it. It's the simplest thing. Ask them what do they think. Show them, ask them what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. But if you do that and you get the feedback, make absolutely certain that you take action and you show them that you listened. Oops. Can we move this on? There we go. So, key learnings for success. I mean, this is just me in healthcare. But, I mean, you might take 2 or 3 of these. So what were the most important things to me in the whole scheme of things? Experienced staff. I can't say much enough about staff. IT platforms. We built our own systems where we had IT and business intelligence. So we were selling through direct response to consumers. So we were doing ads, we had an infomercial, we had all sorts of stuff. But that was pointless unless we were using that information. So we built systems to support everything, every decision we made. Financial, you have to have the finance in place. Don't go looking for finance when it's too late, because you're going to pay through the nose. Legal, I mean, we had serious problems in legal, I can tell you that. So let me just bring you through this whole thing. So we bought the business that had a turnover of 700,000 in 2007. It was selling in the US and a couple of other countries. It was targeted at men. Then in 2009, we got it into Duane Reade. So in the US, we couldn't get into Walgreens, Walmart, whatever else. They were just too big. They would swallow us up. So we got into Duane Reade. We got to know one woman who was a buyer, and she was fired. But she loved the two of us so much, this was the CEO for the US and myself, that she said, I'm going to list you guys before I leave. I don't care. And she did. And what we did was, she put us into 250 stores in New York. You ever hear of Duane Reade pharmacies? What we did was, he took half of Manhattan and I took the other half. And over 4 days, we went in and trained every single pharmacy. We weren't allowed to. They didn't tell us we could. But we went in from morning to night and trained them. We put up stuff on the underground. We had stuff on the banners, the security banners on the way in. It was unbelievable. What does that say? It says we were willing to take any measure to cross any line to make it a success. Why? Because the minute we had numbers from Dwayne Reed, we were able to get into the big guys. We launched a clinical package that brought us into professional. We went after all the dermatologists. They were only supporting drugs like minoxidil and whatever else. So we were the first to actually do clinical trials. We did the clinical trials in Brazil, we did them in Scandinavia, and we did them in the US. We ended up with 14 clinical trials. No doctor, no dermatologist could argue that we didn't have good clinical evidence. We moved on from there. We got the claims approved in the US. Pretty unusual, but we managed to get it in place. We changed the look, the premium look we launched in Canada. We made an infomercial. It cost us $500,000 to make, but it cost us another $750,000 to test it. It took a whole year to get it right. But when we got it right, it drove the business like crazy and got us to #1. We took in a really good girl from P&G who brought us up to a level where we were able to show that we had the top table. We had the best marketing person, we had sales, we had the clinical trials, we had the accounting. We did an information memorandum when we decided in late 15 that we were going to sell. In 2016 we spent 2 weeks in New York and we were in front of Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Clorox, C&D, a load of venture capital funds. It was the most, I thought the most exhilarating thing was up in Finland. This was unbelievable. If you ever get to a situation where there's 4 of you and there's 20 or 30 of the biggest companies in the world sitting around and they're hitting you with questions, trying to find the weakness in your business, and you're there and you know there's no weakness. You have done everything right. You've invested everything. Your team are supporting you. It's the most unbelievable feeling in the world. In the end of all of that, I was over talking to somebody earlier on. We were in Chicago. I was trying to get them up to that magic 150 million. They wouldn't go for it. We were in the week that Ireland beat New Zealand in Chicago. I was there that week. On the Friday morning, I got the call to say that C&D agreed on the 150. I swear. I was so shattered that at that stage it was just pure relief. So I think there may be some questions, but it has been an amazing journey. I would love to think that you guys could get to here. I started off exactly where you are right now. Believe in big. You can make it happen. Good luck to you all.
James, stay up here for a second because we do have some questions.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, James Murphy, what a remarkable story and a remarkable journey you've been on. Yep, knock yourself down for a second. First of all, the lawyers hurt you, didn't they? You really don't like the lawyers.
I do. My ones.
Your ones, yeah. Not the other ones. Never good. Look, some interesting questions have come in on Slido, so thank you very much for using it. We'll have a look at them here. James, what is your view of using share options as an incentive to hiring great people who really can't afford from a pure salary perspective? That's from Niall.
I think share options are, the Americans developed the whole share option scheme or the whole share options and whatever else. It's absolutely paramount. Young people today in Ireland want to participate in the growth. They want to participate in the rewards. You have to. The government has put a scheme in place. You have to use it. And remember, you're not going to lose the business. I ended up giving away 20%. Most of the guys in the US were like amazed that I still owned 80% of the business when I sold it. You don't have to give away an awful lot. If you tell them clearly that you're going to give 10 or 15% of it away, and then it comes down to how you allocate that, everybody's happy.
This is the question that struck me as well, and this is the journalist in me coming out. Sorry now, of all the things you said there, did you ever give your man the 70 grand back? And somebody else has asked that question as well.
I did. I paid him back within a year because we were making so much money, it was a piece of cake.
And he was happy?
He was very happy, and I also fired him about 3 months later.
What was the best support that you received to help you scale your business internationally?
Because he was looking for interest.
Should they get greedy? What's the best support you received to scale your business internationally?
The best support I got, I suppose, like Enterprise Ireland, I mean, I'm not here just because Enterprise Ireland have asked me. Joe has been asked me, seen me speak before. Enterprise Ireland is a different organisation today than it was 20 years ago. It absolutely wants Irish Indigenous industry to succeed. It is absolutely up to you guys to use every support. But you could see towards the end, when I went into the last phase, you saw all the support. So I got BES funding, which was very straightforward. I even got too much money. We ended up getting developed capital funding, which we didn't use, which really pissed me off because they converted that into shares that they shouldn't have got. But anyway, don't get me going on that one. That's another one besides the lawyers.
By the sounds of it, yeah. Can I ask you one question just to finish up? What's next?
So I'm finally kind of, I understand that I am an entrepreneur now, which is kind of strange.
It's been a long
day. So we still have the business Life to Good. So we have created an investment group, but the Life to Good business will continue. So we're out trying to buy other businesses. We still have a very interesting product on the US market. It's called Berkeley Life for reducing blood pressure, natural product. We also have some other businesses in the UK, but I'm out trying to buy a menopause business that was developed in Russia. It's based in LA, and I'm looking at a couple of other healthcare products. So I'm absolutely out there looking to take whatever I can to the next phase.
Well, I really can't agree with Enterprise Ireland enough that you were the right choice to talk to these 181 people on the start of their journey. James Murphy, Life's Too Good, thank you so much.
Thanks a million.
Pleasure. Thank you, sir.